Chevron 1, loaded.
For my ally is the Force, and the power for ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed your hunt. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the tongues of war.
Chevron 2 is loaded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
Well, I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that, killer stuff. I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, little boy.
Great Scott.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass! I thought I'd die fighting side by side with Al.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Howdy, y'all. Welcome to another day at the drive-in where we sit back and enjoy movies. At least I hope everybody enjoys the movies. We sit back and enjoy the movies and talk and take a break from the crap clown world that we live in. Tonight is Tombstone, 1993. Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Powers Booth, Sam Elliott. The cast goes on and on. Even a cameo from Chuck Heston. Oh, yeah. But first, let's say hi to the panel. We got a full panel tonight. I'll call you hetero life mate this week. Hetero life mate.
Hetero life mate.
Hetero life mate. We got to get away from the gay. We got to get away from it. It's terrible. It's destroying our homes. It's ruining our lives. I can't. You're cheating on me with everybody in the G&G house. Cheating on me with Rachel. I can't stand it anymore. So we got to switch to hetero life mate. At least then I don't feel. At least I could get to maintain some dignity. Jed, how are you?
I am doing great. I've actually spent the last 2 full days writing a very exciting new project, and I haven't done that in years. I haven't spent 2 days straight, like just in my bubble, just going at it.
Damn, dude, so nice.
I'm in a great mood, and so I'm excited to talk about a movie that I watched for the first time earlier today and quite enjoyed. So this is a great way to end a very good couple days for me. So I'm excited to jump into it.
Yes, I'm glad. And dude, that is awesome that you're writing. I wish I could get in the headspace where I could do it, but that headspace is in another galaxy right now, so it's not happening anytime soon. Excellent. And we are joined by 2 guests. One of them I like, one of them I tolerate. Devil, I like you. How you doing today, Devil?
I'm doing good. Don't make me do it. Happy to be here.
And Mustang, I tolerate you half the time. So how you doing today? Busy. All right, guys. So let's dive right in. Tombstone, as I said, 1993. That was an interesting year. Like 1993, you had Tombstone, you had Braveheart. It was an interesting year of movies. I remember taking a field trip in high school. And we was going to be a couple hours, maybe 2 or 3, maybe even 4. We weren't sure how long we'd do it, and they brought 2 movies on the bus that the school rented, and we had drop down screens, and people got to vote: watch Tombstone or watch Braveheart. Overwhelmingly, we all said Tombstone first. It was just interesting, considering the mix
It's a
of people.
little bit more appropriate for young audiences than Braveheart.
We were teenagers. I mean, hell, we'd seen some shit. I've seen some shit that is already. Anyway, so Tombstone 993. This I feel like this movie at the time came out of nowhere. It's not something expected, and I'm surprised I love it as much as I do because I'm not Western oriented when it comes to my flavor of movies. Not a fan of Westerns. Not at all. I appreciate them. I know that they are a certain staple of brand, and some guys are awesome in it. I mean, John Wayne made it in Western. Certain John Wayne movies I do love, but I prefer John Wayne war movies, like World War II movies, to that. Clint Eastwood, all that kind of stuff. And this movie comes out, and maybe because it's got a historical tinge to it, and yes, we know Tombstone is a sanitized version of those events. It's a very sanitized version, but it hits you. And I think it has a lot to do with the cast. So, Jed, since this was your first viewing, what did you expect going into Tombstone today?
I didn't have a whole lot of expectations besides I did expect to really enjoy it because I've heard incredible things about it for many, many years from people that I trust. So I figured I was definitely going to enjoy it. Unlike you, I am a big fan of the Western genre. I love a lot of the classic Westerns. Magnificent Seven is one of my favorite movies. And I could definitely see some influences from the Magnificent Seven in Tombstone. But what surprised me with this was how insane the cast was. There were so many famous people in it. From Thomas Hayden Church, who was later Sandman, to Billy Bob Thornton, who was in, 2 scenes in the entire film? It was a star-studded cast.
It's Fat Billy Bob, too. It's Fat Billy Bob.
Yeah, Fat Billy Bob. And I do have a little bit of gripes, especially with the ending of the film, but they're so minor that I imagine I'll watch this movie pretty regularly because I enjoyed it, and it felt like one of the old Westerns, but with a lot of the overarching drama that the 90s are known for. Like, it was a perfect meld of the classic Western with the era of the 90s, and so it got so much of what I love about filmmaking right in such a tight area with some of my favorite actors. Kurt Russell, I think this might be my favorite film I've ever seen him in.
Wow.
He's just so solid in it. His mustache is insane. It's accurate, but it's still a little insane.
There's a lot of full on man facial here in this movie. A lot of full on man facial. No, it's there. It's prominent, and some people might be jealous of it. I'm not because I don't like this. As far as I go, I shave tomorrow. But yeah, that's the thing. I think in the end, this movie works because the casting is just spot on, and everybody, no matter how small their moment, nails it, delivers, and I think just got into the whole flavor of it. I love it. Mustang, you actually love the history of this movie.
Oh, yeah. Even though the history on quite a few things is wrong, the movie did really good. It's a fun, enjoyable movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all know the OK Corral. No, that was straight up slaughter. It wasn't the portrayal we get in the movie. That's a straight up slaughter, and it was not the showdown as it always says it. Devil, how many times have you come back to this movie over the years?
Oh God, I must have watched it about I'd say at least 20 times at this point. I love it. I do think it is a sanitized version of a story, but that's how it was supposed to be, because if not many people know this, but Wyatt Earp actually lived in Hollywood towards the end of his life, and he sold his story. He tried to sell it to every studio. He really pushed it as this, type thing. So he was friends with a lot of the, old actors, black and white movies into the thing. Wow. And so yeah, it is a sanitized version of the story, but it is well played, and you have that many great actors, that many huge actors, you're gonna get a good thing, because when you have that good a talent, they make it good. And
you're absolutely right. This is early 90s when the caliber, and we've talked about this all the time on other streams, the caliber of the acting pool was still very high in the 90s, because you have a lot of people who are at the end of their careers or in the middle of their careers from the previous generations, they're professionals still.
Yeah.
And they're going to do a job. I mean, you don't even realize freaking Robert Mitchum is the narrator in this movie. He's the narrator. I mean, that just shows you, again, massive caliber that they get to do this. Let's just dive right in. I mean, for those who are unfamiliar, this is the story of Wyatt Earp after his days in Kansas, in Dodge City, tries to have a regular life, but inevitably gets drawn into the chaos and the mayhem that is the West at that point. And he goes back to the law, and it's a fantastic portrayal. I want to say it's good and evil, but it's really rough good, chaotic good versus evil. I feel because let's be honest, Doc Holliday, he's an anti-hero. He's not a good man. He's a bad man, but he's a good friend to Wyatt Earp. Played, of course, brilliantly by Val Kilmer. It's one of everybody's favorite roles. Now, before we get any farther in, let's say hi to the chat. I have to remember to do that. These particular streams, because we dive right in usually. Hail to Legatus Legionist, along with Mustang here. My mods, my irregulars. Hail to you, Alchem the Strong, good sir. How are you doing? Hail, good evening, Kale. How are you? Elwood P. Dowd, welcome to the stream. Beef, that's what I'm having for dinner. It's hamburgers tonight, baby. It's red meat night. And anybody else is chilling out, watching, or if you're watching on the replay, hit that like button, leave a comment, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Okay, we've mentioned it. Let's go down the cast again and just talk about their portrayals. We'll start with Kurt Russell, who is, even though there is an ensemble nature to this, he is the star. He is Wyatt Earp. Kurt Russell, just like Jet said, he nails it. That perfect, serious nature combined with that tinge of hope that Wyatt wants for a better life, a calmer life, but then the crushingness of how he reacts to the reality that he's forced to go through. And I think it's really well delivered throughout all three acts, Jed. The metamorphosis of Wyatt through his character through all three acts. How do you feel about that?
Oh, 100%. You can see clearly why he changes from the retired version of himself, who's filled with regret for killing that one man, I believe is what he said, to the monster at the end who is bringing hell with him. And I love every single second of it. I think Val Kilmer might be my favorite character in the movie.
Yes.
But the Wyatt Earp's portrayal, especially by the end, once he picks up his guns again, I was cheering at that moment. I said, fucking yeah.
Right before the show, the OK Corral, when he goes into his home, picks up his lawman coat, gets his lawman coat, and then opens a box and takes out Peacemaker. Peacemaker. That is his famous pistol. And he realized, shit, now it's on. It's on. And even those moments, there are certain points in it where you get the flashes of the cold-blooded killer that he can be. Early on, when he slaps around Billy Bob Thornton, it's like, boy, slapping him around like a bitch. Then later on, when after Curly Bill kills the town marshal, and Wyatt's saying no man's gonna hang here, and Ike tries to get him, he pulls a gun and just puts it right between Ike's eyes on his forehead, and right then Ike, played of course again by get his name right, I don't remember his name, by Stephen Lang, the great Stephen Lang, who gets villains so perfectly most of the time.
Oh, he pissed me off so much in the best ways in this movie. He was such a coward, and it was funny in a lot of other instances, especially in like Wyatt Earp's "I'm bringing hell" phase. He was straight up murdering people, even cowards, even people who had surrendered with their hands up. Like, why didn't you just kill this fucking dude? Kill this motherfucker, please, for the love of God. Stop letting him go. I wanted him to die so bad.
Well, it's just so great. And I want to save the discussion of the third act for its own segment, because that act alone, it's the epitome of badassery is what it is. That's what a posse goes out and does. Kill shit. But he has that moment where he has Ike gun on his forehead, and I can see the killer right there. and he's telling Billy, "No, Billy, don't do it. He'll kill me. He will kill me and not blink about it, knowing that he might die afterwards." And then that's the first real hint you get of what's going to happen later on. And again, setup and payoff. When we open the movie, let's jump to this. Then I said cast, but we're going to jump around. The opening sets the stakes again. We get the history lesson from Robert Mitchum, and we then get the whole layout of here come the bad guys, and as bad as they can possibly be, the Cowboys are right over out there, and you even get the most important Cowboys up front. You get Powers Booth's Curly Bill. I never remember the guy who played Ringo. What's his name again? Shit. Crap, he's not on the main line here. What's the guy who played Ringo? Shit. Hang on. Let me go to the larger cast and crew here.
I didn't recognize
Michael Bean. Michael Bean.
Yeah.
From Aliens and stuff like that. Michael Bean. Michael Bean's Ringo, great psychopath, but you get it all right there. The levels of evil that we're dealing with, and how they kill the guy, kill the groom who killed a couple cowboys. And here's this. I'll put this in. Did they defile the bride, or did they kill her? I hear a gun. I hear a gunshot. I think both. Yeah.
Creepy dudes drag her into the. Why when they just shoot her there? It just seems like
there's one who's clearly lifting up her dress. So there's some defiling going on.
It's you're dealing with the scum of the earth here, and even even early on there. Hang on, let me go back again. I'm trying to remember all the names here. There, even Michael Rooker's McMaster. At that point, you see that he's not happy with what's going on here, but you don't get that turn. It
sets up his turn. Like we don't get a whole lot of dialogue from Michael Rooker, but through his performance, we don't need any more to know exactly what he's thinking and why he would turn against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
It's very, very well done, both writing and performance.
And you get to say up the priest's the prediction, hell is going to come for you.
And
gets paid off later. So the scene, it starts off there, and then we get the Earp family coming together. Or no, get their family coming, and then that's just nice coming up. But then I love Val Kilmer's Doc's intro Mustang. I love it. I'll let you collect yourself.
I'm more paying attention to Jed and his reaction because I knew it was his very first time, and I could still see that he's happy with the movie. And I watched the replay of last week before this, and Jed was not happy. Jed.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks. That was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
It was 2 weeks ago.
That's what, like I said, you know how busy I am, but
Jed's Asian hate.
I want to punt that kid. Still,
I don't think I've ever seen somebody so angry at a movie.
Rachel was just as angry as me. I want to throw that.
All right, let us not relive that. Okay, I don't want to fight again today. Let's
Rachel could throw axes, so I'm more worried about her being angry than you.
But the introduction of Doc Holliday, again, like Jed. Val Kilmer is my favorite in this movie. I love the Caruso, but Val Kilmer steals
every line, everything he's in.
Yeah, every scene he steals. And it starts with that moment where the conversation, I just don't think I could live with myself if we can't be friends anymore. And then now we can be friends again. And then he pulls out a knife and he ganks him. Ganks him with a knife.
He's so gangster.
Reality, I mean, it was self-defense.
Yeah, the guy was coming for him.
Yeah, but it's great. I love it. What were you saying, Devil?
The hooker that he's with is called Big Nose something.
Big Nose Kate. Big Nose Kate.
And they showed up when Adam was actually at there at Tombstone. He showed a picture of her. And man, she did. I don't know if I'd pick her to be my prostitute.
Well, yeah,
most of the prostitutes back then looked disgusting.
That was his special girl. I mean, getting Joanna Pacula, a very beautiful woman, to play it. You want eye candy in this. You don't want that. But
one
yeah,
of my favorite episodes of Supernatural is when they time travel back to the cowboy era, and Dean thinks it's going to be like Tombstone. He thinks it's going to be like the old westerns, and the babes are going to be hot, and he's going to wear a poncho just like Clint Eastwood. And it is nothing like it is. The first prostitute he meets, who's apparently the best girl of the whorehouse, has so much herpes all over her face that he looks like he's gonna vomit. She's overweight, and then like the town pastor comes in, and he's like, "Hey, darling, you know what time it is?" It's a great episode.
But they're gonna give us eye candy. I mean, all the women are beautiful. Dana Delaney as Josephine, smoking hot. It's great. But Val Kilmer as Doc comes in. That whole scene where they steal everything and just go away and let's just go on the run again. It's so right. It's just a great introduction that he's an anti-hero. Mm-hmm. He's not a good man, and that's why I say that again. I'm not sure how to tackle this going forward. We'll just keep going down. I guess we'll keep going down the scenes or you know what? Let's go through the acts. I think that's the best way to tackle this. Let's go through the acts. And we'll reach a logical conclusion that way. So the first act is, I think it's safe to say, between the music, the cinematography, and the proper introduction of all the main characters. Again, in the first 15 minutes, we know all the players. We know all the players. We know who are the most important players, who's going to have the most impact. We see the interactions. It's all set in place so that by we're in halfway through the first act, we're comfortable with everybody. We know what they want to do. We know what their goals are. Their initial goals are. The Earps want to make it rich. They want to retire from their law days, or at least Sam Elliott and Kurt Russell. They want to retire from their law days. Morgan, played by the late great Bill Paxton, he's fresh to this stuff. Morgan is the youngest one. He is fresh to it. He hasn't had the experience his brothers have had. They just want to have it easy. And of course, they didn't give too much early development or background on Wyatt's first wife, Maddie, who is addicted to drugs. But they don't spend a whole lot of time on that, even though it is something that happened. I know the Kevin Costner Wyatt Earp movie spends a lot of time on that, but I'm glad they didn't, because I think the way they portrayed in this movie, Maddie as the dope addicted wife who doesn't really share his dreams or his desires, as a conflict to Josephine, who wants to live life. I think it's a good contrast the way they set it up in the movie.
Yeah, because the love story is him and Josephine. She's not supposed to be the center of his thing. It's Josephine for sure. So yeah.
Well, and the way I saw it is Wyatt, after his experiences that made him want to go out west to Tombstone, he's relatively broken. He doesn't know what he wants, and he's just trying to look for a traditional life because that's what he believes you're supposed to do. Exactly. Yeah. And his wife, in her current state, is sucking the life out of him and only perpetuating his depression to a certain extent. And Josephine is breathing new life into him, making him the man that he should be, a man who wants to live and cares about things. Because for the first half of the movie, it doesn't look like he gives a shit about anything. I mean, like, he's happy to see his brothers and whatnot, but he's not motivated.
He's trying to fill that hole in himself that his law work gave him. And he thinks getting money, getting rich, getting property, success, and comfort will bring it to him. Now, Mustang, correct me on this. Again, sanitized version. He was having an open affair with Josephine in real life, correct?
Started out quiet and then it got open. But what I want to go at the beginning of this movie gives us all their personalities.
Yes.
And then it gives us all their intents. And the one thing that I love so much about Tombstone, it didn't touch a lot of the Dodge history with Wyatt. It's just kind of, he was a lawman in Dodge. And they went past it. So many other movies, they dwelled on his time in Dodge. And that brings into question his killing ability, which in Dodge City, there's only one recorded case, because you know how I researched this for years. Yeah. I've only found one case that Wyatt ever shot somebody in Dodge. Most of the time, he was known. There's an article that basically says you didn't want Wyatt coming for you because you knew you would either have to draw or go quietly, and he brought people in. He had a reputation of being that good. And I love how this movie, they didn't have to touch that to introduce us to Wyatt Earp, the man. And it was just really good.
Yeah, and you bring up great 2 points. It's called Tombstone, not Dodge City. It's called Tombstone. And that's a great choice by both the writer and director to have everybody aware of the history, but not dwell on it and not take away from the story of what happened in Tombstone, Arizona. At the same time, we've already mentioned this. Kurt Russell does a fantastic delivery of the man of the can we say beast held in check, the rage monster held in check constantly, and the little blips are when it comes out, you know it's coming, and then of course Act 3, the monsters let loose. But one of my favorite things is again, I'm gonna go back to in that first act when they're in Tombstone and they don't know Doc is there, and after he slapped around Billy Bob for a bit and you see him coming up with the shotgun, Doc says Johnny, and that whole interaction there is fabulous. And I love it when you see an alpha male presented in its full glory. Doc Holliday stops the attempted murder of his friends, has a fun back and forth conversation, and then goes, "Oh, Johnny, are you still here? You may go." And then Wyatt asserts his own alpha male without even looking. "Yeah, you can leave the shotgun." Tries to hand it to him. "Leave it. Put it on the ground." I love that kind of display.
It shows that there's more than one way to be a strong man. You have Wyatt Earp's approach, which is, he straight puts him in his place and says, smoke that wagon or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have Doc, who, he knows he knows who Doc is. He knows the danger that's there.
It's the threat of Doc Holliday, which we get throughout the whole movie. The threat, because we see him in action a couple of times, but before that, it's always the threat. Once the Cowboys arrive back in Tombstone and everybody's mixing it up later on in the bar, when Ringo starts to mouth off to Doc, and he does the whole
cup
gun display, and then Doc just does it with the cup.
Beautiful.
And it's so fantastic. And at that point, you see there's tension there. But then later on, after the Battle of the OK Corral, when Ringo is drunk and is out for blood, Curly Bill has to stop him going. But Doc says, I'm here to play. And Doc gets up off the chair, and one of his guns is already drawn behind his back. And Ringo, he is perhaps the most dangerous cowboy after Curly, even before Curly Bill, because of his skill and ability. But Curly Bill knows the danger right there. He's like, no, let's not start this here. He's already got one gun out. He's got the advantage. And
What I put in private.
You want me to read it?
Can you share it so that people can see that? Because that is from Dodge City. That is what they had to say about it.
Well, you're a mod. You could have put it in the chat.
Too many characters put in chat.
I think it was Samuel told me. Do you know that he doesn't say I'm your Huckleberry?
Yeah, Samuel told us that a couple weeks ago. I remember that. Yeah.
It's I guess the casket, the handles on the side of it are called Huckles. And so he actually was supposed to say, I'm your Hucklebearer. Like he would bear his casket, he would carry it.
That makes more sense. Yeah, when that moment happened, I'm like, the fuck is he talking about?
But now it's famously Huckleberry.
Iconic, yeah.
It's iconic. I mean, I got it right here. It's like the clip is here. I have it. There it is.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Now that you hear that, you can see it. I'm here, Hucklebearer. You can hear it, but the iconic line is I'm here, Huckleberry.
Yeah.
That's what we think it is.
And I was really worried after the scene that we're just talking about between Ringo and Doc that they would still make it Wyatt Earp who got the final showdown with Ringo, but they set it up that Doc would had the bigger story with Ringo, and the better conclusion would be for them to face off. So I really love how that aspect of the finale played out.
And that's one of my biggest problems with the entire movie, because that never happened.
Yeah,
Ringo committed suicide.
Oh, really?
The best part of it though wasn't just that he took on Ringo. It's when Wyatt's in the hospital and Doc's in the bed and he goes, "I can't beat him, can I?" And he goes, "Yes." Like he acknowledges that I'm gonna die, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And then Doc getting himself out of bed, even though he's dying literally, and saying, "You're not gonna take my friend," and going and taking his place, taking the badge and throwing it down.
And I love his acknowledgement of his hypocrisy of putting on a badge. And even though again, this is fictional history right here. It's beautiful. Again, set up and payoff. They set it up. They have them butting heads. It's clear early on that they are the two, when it comes to pure skill, Ringo and Doc are the two deadliest players on the field. Wyatt may be the
leader went versus leader in the riverbed, so that was already concluded.
Yeah, I mean, and it was more about Curly Bill and Wyatt than Wyatt and Ringo. Ringo was just the next one in command, and he would end at that point. Is that he's next one in line? But that's I think why I'm drawn to this is it has classical matchup mentality of people matched up. I like matchups. I like,
and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
it does.
And we're rolling through this. You get to that end of the first act where things are picking up, where the disorder of Tombstone is getting too much, and like I said, it ends with the marshal getting killed by Curly Bill. And up to that point, one of my few critiques of the movie, I only have mostly technical critiques that I have with this. That scene itself, where Curly Bill comes out of the opium den. Yeah, too many gunfire shots.
There's
fired up way more rounds
without
than he did. Yeah, he only had to, and in that state he's not reloading. In that state, come on. But that again, and that happens a couple of times in the movie. That's one of my few critiques. But at the same time, at that point, my other critique is the movie very rarely lets us know how much time has passed. You guys know that's one of my continual critiques in a lot of movies. I like to know how much time has passed in something, so things feel legitimate. We understand there's been patched the time. Like one of the few times is after that scene where Wyatt is talking about it's been 3 or 4 weeks since that moment in the next scene, because Wyatt says it took the judge 3 weeks to get here. Time's passed, but they don't do a good enough job expressing it.
I would agree, 100%.
Again, that's almost a limit of my critiques. A couple other ones to go along, but then we get to the middle act where now. And Jed, the tension buildup is great in this movie, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. From just like the little moments. One of my favorite moments was seeing just Sam Elliott walking through the town. As you could see his conflict. He's like, I want to stay out of this, like my brother said, but these people are suffering and I can do something about it. And it's all in his performance. He never actually says that until he changes his mind, until he decides to be a deputy. Up until that point, we just see God, he hates what's happening, and he hates the decision that he feels he's forced to make, and he's just seeing all these people suffer. And that buildup is mostly because of the performance. That's what I'm going to harp back to is I think that is without doubt the strongest aspect of this film is the performances.
And the scene direction, because they're able to convey moments of stress and tension with more than just the dialogue. And they use in the scene Jed's talking about where Sam Elliott is walking out there and he's reaching his limit, even though you can tell he's reaching his limit when they're playing billiards, but he's really reaching out when the horses run through town and a little kid, the classic moment, a little kid chasing a ball into it, and he just does that classic trope of scooping the kid out of the way. But it's maybe a cliched trope there to pull the kid out of the danger, but it completes the scene. For him to save a child, needing no one else to do, the chaos is so supreme that no one else moves to save the child, and he has to do it.
Oh, and it's more on instinct than anything.
But it's so much then that that's the moment he realizes he has to do it. He has to step in because no one else is going to, and it's only going to get worse. And it's powerful. And again, Sam Elliott, the stern Virgil portrayal, it's again, like I said, the powerful performance of defying Wyatt too. Even though Virgil is the older brother, Wyatt is the one in charge, ostensibly of the family. He's the family head of the family. To defy Wyatt's desire of let's stay out of it, their tension right there, not just tension between the conflicting parties, but the tension between the brothers is palpable right there because Wyatt sees Virgil defy him, and then he looks to Morgan, and Morgan, just without even saying anything, Bill Paxton just sighs and opens his vest and shows off the badge, and Wyatt just, no, oh, come on. You're both betraying me. But then Morgan's great line, you gotta back your brother. And he's still back. I think that's great writing, guys. It's great writing. It's great acting of the betraying one brother to back another one, but not betraying. It's complicated, but it works. And it's a great exposition of family dynamic. And it works. And of course, everybody nails it. Like, Jed is right. Everybody nails it with their delivery. It's good.
Even the what's his name, the guy from who did Titanic, who plays the gay actor guy, even he does good in it.
Billy Zane.
Yeah, even he plays good in his little character. He really sells it.
Billy Zane couple scenes. Yeah, Billy Zane. When he enters, when Josephine comes in, basically she says, "Do you see anything alike?" She goes, "Yes, I do." He says, "Happy hunting."
Yeah,
I'm off.
Well, and once he's dead and she's like cradling his body, she says something like, "He was so pretty" or something like that. And
he was beautiful. He wanted to bring beauty into your world, and you killed him for it. And you're all ugly, all of you. You're ugly.
I love the way she describes her relationship with him, and the 3 or 4 scenes she does it with Wyatt as well. It's just, we get most of his characterization from her perspective and her dialogue, but it's still a very interesting character.
But again, just a small little bit from Billy Zane, and it's fantastic. Billy Zane with hair too. Billy Zane with hair. That's how you take this. Billy Zane with hair. So then that pretty much is the end of Act 1, and we start Act 2 with now the Earps taking over law enforcement of the town, and things are escalating even more because then here's the whole setup for everything: the no carrying firearms in town. And that's
was born to end badly. That concept would never have worked in that type of environment, at least from like I've read a ton of Westerns, some that were written in the era. And I hate to quote it. All right, Adam, please don't kill me for quoting it. But just like the Mandalorian said, weapons are a part of my religion. That is an accurate quote for how these frontiersmen lived their lives, as far as I'm aware. And so even the people who weren't members of the Cowboys, even the people who had no intentions of stirring up trouble like them, they were going to hate this idea and fight against it. And it might even make regular people who otherwise wouldn't be a threat into threats. They created far more problems for themselves than they solved with that idea. Well, it was a terrible choice. That's why they lost it, or that's why so many of them died, I think. That's why everything went down, because they made that dumb decision.
Yeah.
Well, also, Tombstone was a boomtown, right? It was like gold was found in the area. Yeah, silver. So, yeah, in those kind of areas, everyone carried a gun because you would be robbed for your silver. So, the population outside of the criminal element are going to be like, yeah, you're not taking my gun. This is how I keep my, what I have on me.
Well, and it's the same idea. The criminals aren't going to obey a gun ban, as we see. And so that just disarms the good people from defending themselves.
Yeah, I was having those same exact thoughts today when I was watching, because unfortunately in the clown world we live in, we're seeing this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, I mean, problem was, it was a move of desperation by Virgil and the mayor. It was a move of desperation. And it was desperation of last resort. It was the only thing they could think of to do, because they saw what happened whenever they try to arrest a cowboy. The cowboys then get even more violence. All right, we're going to try and disarm them. That only leads to a problem, because then that leads to the next part when they have the confrontation with Ike in the bar, when Doc has his first real how do I describe this? His first breakdown from his tuberculosis in the movie. He's been looking sickly the whole time, but after he's been on his 36-hour bender, he has that confrontation with Ike there, and Ike is mouthing off everybody, but then he turns around and he's threatening the Earps, but he doesn't know Virgil is standing there, and I love that moment. He's almost on top of it, and again, this is fantastic direction. He literally does. It has to be done so perfectly so he doesn't know he's there to turn around and suddenly have him in the face and then get pistol whipped to knock out. I love that moment, but that's the catalyst for the OK Corral.
Which the OK Corral is actually one of the parts of the film I have the most issue with.
Yeah, it's also, again, massively historically inaccurate.
Which is part of the reason, not just for accuracy, but it's just not bad enough to warrant the response that the whole town gives to it afterwards. Like, that shootout is not a whole lot worse than the shootouts prior in the movie and ones that come after. And it's very clear that they're trying to rest them, and then the Cowboys shoot first or draw first. Like, it is a clear, normal shootout where someone shoots first. It looks like self-defense. It's not all that unusual compared to the other shootouts. They needed to put way more effort to the appearance that this was a pure slaughter. Even if it wasn't historically accurate in and of the script, it isn't bad enough to justify murder in the streets of Tombstone. It is, and have the mayor and the sheriff turn against him.
Well, the mayor and the sheriff didn't turn it. Well, the mayor didn't turn against them. The mayor was with them the whole time.
No. Did you see how the mayor reacted to him right after it happened? When he was standing next to Wyatt, he's like,
"No, that wasn't the mayor. No, that was the county sheriff, Behan. He's a piece of shit. He was on the take. He was a corrupt cop. Basically. Okay. The mayor, played by
then just the sheriffs.
No, the mayor was completely on their side with everything the Earps did. He was totally behind them. No, Behan, the county guy, he was a complete. He
used the slaughter to justify turning against the Earps, regardless.
Well, but I mean,
that was the public excuse. He's on the take, like you said, but that's the excuse he gave. I just don't think the OK Corral was bad enough portrayed to warrant. Even if it looked bad, it didn't even look bad to the many witnesses that were there.
Yeah, you're to the regular people, nobody bought it. But this was the first time in the movie that a cowboy dies, which is then the catalyst for the revenge against the Earps and their allies. Because after the battle, and we'll talk let's talk about the OK Corral. I agree in the sense that again, the historical inaccuracy, we take away what we can from that. That kind of almost has to be kind of removed, I think, as a too much criticism, because the whole movie, again, not historically accurate. So if they're not going to make the whole movie accurate, we shouldn't expect that to be. It was done for flash and pop because it gives us the poster of the movie, the famous one where they're all walking to the OK Corral, and having them do that creates the tension. And then it's supposed to be. I've been thinking about this today, so I'm still putting my thoughts together. So apologize if I'm stammering my response here to that. The way they decided to do the OK Corral, from my perspective, was to get across what Wyatt was telling Morgan about earlier in the movie about taking a life, a couple scenes before, because they want to show how Wyatt is now going to step completely away from the life he wanted, the life he tried to leave behind. You want to see the the Cowboys just being the Cowboys there. They technically start the fight because they can get that great moment where Doc winks at him and oh God, and then it begins, and the Cowboys have been they're not at fault here because they are goaded into the fight. Let's be honest, they're goaded into it. The Earps wanted the excuse to get rid of them. Even though Virgil says it's not what I want. No, it's what you want. You wanted this. But it's all, I think, to center around seeing everybody's individual participation in it and how they do it, especially around Morgan, where he's firing, but he's not hitting anything. You can see the panic in his eyes. And at that last moment, when he thinks the one guy has the draw on Doc, how he manages to get his wounded arm up to get the shot off that nails him in the head. But Doc did have a bullet left in the chamber. And he managed to, or the wheel, and he managed to also shot. So they shot him same time. But it looks like to Morgan that even though Doc shot first, but Morgan's was the shot in the head. So to Morgan, it looks like he took a life.
Yeah.
And I think the whole point of the way they did it was to steer to that, where Morgan in the next scene says, "You know why? It's not how I thought it would be. It's like you said it would be. It's haunting me." So that's how I feel. How do you guys feel about that?
Oh, that part was beautiful. The character stuff. Loved how they did that.
I really like the younger brother's. Which one is it?
Morgan.
Morgan. Yeah, Morgan's the one. I really love how his arc, because that's exactly it. He hasn't been a lawman. He hasn't had things his brothers, like you said, their experiences in life, and so him being able to see and come into that through that is really good, and how it haunts him. It is a very good character arc.
And then his character arc comes to a close, because then here comes the retaliation.
Yep.
And it's brutal. Although, again, I guess they had to do it a certain way. Let's walk through the retaliation. First of all, there's the attack on the Earp wives. Only saved by Josephine, because she gets there in time to warn them, because Behan, in his cocky way, is trying to tell her, "You're going to want to side with me, honey, because I'm going to be the most powerful man in town when this is over." She wants nothing to do with that. She warns them. One of the cowboys tries to kill them. They all survive. But then Virgil is the first one that gets hit with his arm. One of my small beefs is, how did he survive with just the arm wound? If they were trying to kill him, if he got jumped by more than one cowboy, I just wonder about.
Dark. Well, maybe he had a chance.
Well, also he didn't get maybe jumped. Maybe they shot it, because it looks like all the things are shot from a distance. The brothers shot through the window in the back. They shot at the girls. They just kicked the door open, shot, and then ran away. So it's all kind of a coward attack. So they might have shot him from across the street with a rifle, and it just hit his arm, and he stumbled away.
Yeah, because I couldn't tell if it's a shot or a knife wound when the doctor's trying to fix it. And at the same time, you kind of hear this in the background. They attacked the mayor too, and they killed his wife. They killed the mayor's wife in the retaliation as well. So it was not just the Earps. The mayor got hit as well. And then, as Del just said, Morgan gets killed, and there's the end of his arc. And that is first of all, it's a grisly scene, because first of all, you look at the level of medical technology, getting a bullet out, digging around trying to find it. That's the extent of trying to get a bullet out. It's grisly, and you wonder how anybody survived back then when they did get wounded. At the same time, Morgan's final words, he had talked about spirituality earlier in the movie, and his final words, they said that there be a light. I don't see anything. And then he's gone.
Yeah,
that was a beautiful moment. Great setup and payoff.
Yeah, and I like when he says, "Don't let them get you, brother."
You're the one.
Once again, he thinks of his brothers. It's
You're right. You're right. It's just it's beautiful. And then Wyatt's breakdown, because I think he has a legitimate breakdown in that moment.
Oh, yeah.
And then afterwards, it's all acting. When they're leaving town, basically saying, "We give up, you win. We're out of here." He looks like he's given up, but then at the train station. "Hey, Maddie, where's Wyatt?" "Right here, Stillwell." Boom! No hesitate. This is where we get. This is what's missing. A lot of times when you have movies and with conflicts or somebody's down, when you have somebody who is your enemy, you gank them. You do not stop short. You do not allow a soliloquy. You do not allow a monologue. Well, not a soliloquy, a monologue. Excuse me. I could speak. You don't allow a speech of any sort. You finish them. He kills Stillwell, and then Ike, as Jed brought up, Ike immediately goes to coward mode. Bang on Z's. You hear Wyatt walking. You hear the spurs. They give you a good look at the spurs. as he lifts his chin up with his boot and then draws it across his mouth. And you see the blood. It's hardcore. He leans over, and as he leans over, you see Doc and two of the other guys are introduced. And McMaster's come up because, again, McMaster's had come up and said in previous end of the previous act, we heard we did you to women. I didn't buy into that. I'm here if you need me. And then, of course, the other two guys were there with him too. Who were introduced earlier on. Quick introduction so you know why they're there later on. We're here if you need us. And there they are, all walking up, all except Doc, U.S. Marshals, which means it's a federal case now, which allows them to go across state lines as they go hunting these guys. And then you get the famous speech. You call down the thunder. Well, now you got it. I see a man wearing red. I kill him. You tell him I'm coming. You tell him hell's coming with me. And that's the kind of line, if I do another re-edit of the intro to the show here, I could slap that in there. Because this movie has several iconic lines to it that are part of pop culture. You tell him I'm coming and hell's coming with me. You hear hell's coming with me. And then it comes to something that's a lost art, Jed. Montage.
I miss good montages. I just watched the Sylvester Stallone director's cut of Rocky IV for the first time with Beardo and the Capable Gentleman last week. And I miss those montages. They're so badass. I love montages. But before we move on to the montage, I want to say one thing. So that is one of my favorite. I have so many favorite scenes from the movie, but the whole I'm coming and hell's coming with me. The dialogue is just so strong. That scene is incredible. But I would say the third act, it has some of my favorite scenes, but also some of my least favorite scenes. It is very conflicted for me because as much as I love the montages, just like I said, I think they relied on them a little bit too much and left a little bit too much out. It just feels like chaos, badass. And then,
I love it.
It's great, but we needed a few more good action set pieces that were more than just quick cuts. We needed I feel like we needed a little bit more.
I don't know. I'm okay with it. I maybe it's because I have been watching this movie for 30 years now. This is the 30th anniversary of it. Yeah.
The biggest problem with that is because it's used as almost an excuse not to have a big final showdown. Because we go montage, the river scene, which is great character-wise, but isn't exactly, I wouldn't call it a big action set piece. It's more just a badass moment. And then we have the duel, which is a great moment. And then we get a couple more random shots of a montage.
Which actually has an editing mistake in it. Did you notice the editing mistake in the second montage? For a very brief second, they have the original 5 with McMaster still there. It's a small editing error. I only caught it today because, as we always say, I was watching with a critical eye today, and I caught it. Small editing error.
That last montage just feels so weird and out of place because after the duel with...
I don't know. I love it.
After the duel with what's his bucket and Ringo and Doc, it feels like everything's come to a conclusion. We've beat the guys we need to beat. This is a part where the epilogue starts. We're good. And then it's like, you guys are good. Bang, 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 bang. We're good.
Yeah, let's finish it. And it's all like, it wasn't finished. You just killed Ringo. It kind of felt like it was finished.
I love it.
It feels jarring to me. Very jarring.
But let's talk about...
If they were going to do that, they needed it to be a big showdown. One final action set piece.
I didn't need that
all at once, but I feel like we never got
the montage. I really like it.
I love the first montage, but the second one, we needed a good climatic full showdown. We never really got a full showdown.
I don't think the movie was built for that, though. I like the way, because I love the way it ends with Doc and Wyatt shaking hands on the horseback when they reach across. I love that. And to me, that was what the final montage built to, where it's complete. It's complete domination, because the first montage was the hardcore part of it, where we see them riding through windows, kicking down doors, interrupting coitus interruptus, all that good stuff, even to the point where, again, as Jed references earlier, they're in the opium den. The guy leans forward, and suddenly it's not a pipe, it's Peacemaker in his mouth, and Wyatt doesn't even hesitate. Gives him a new ear hole in the back of his head. It's so hardcore. Then leading to the riverbed, that was enough of a confrontation for me.
Well, it's just if they were going to interrupt the fulfillment feeling after the duel and leading into Doc's death scene, it needed to be so much better of an interruption.
The montage scene was to show that the Cowboys had been beaten once and for all.
We'd already seen them thoroughly beaten in the previous montage. I don't think we needed
the Cowboys were 100 strong group.
And it was
then
30
it needed
left.
to be a showdown. I just feel like it's pacing whiplash to go from we're good to bang, 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 and it's super quick and then it's done.
Because it's that one moment. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I get what you're saying that you wanted that confrontation because that's the last 29 Cowboys because Ringo was number 30. He's dead. There's Behan, there's Ike, and there's another 27 of them.
Yeah, it's just too short of an interruption.
But now you take it into reality. Behan, in real life, had a posse of Cowboys coming after Earp's posse. Earp was the federal posse. Behan and the local posse were actually coming after him in real life.
Yeah, and and either way, I understand Jed's point, and I would have been okay with it, but I'm also very okay. I really like the way this because to me, that final montage where it's basically that riding battle. Maybe they filmed it and maybe they decided to make it a montage. It's about because that's that one scene. It's all one scene as they're riding and shooting, or maybe various versions of it. And again, there are a couple editing errors that I did spot today, like I said. But it's meant to be done there, and I'm okay because it's meant to show the conclusion of Wyatt and Doc's mission together with that.
It could have been done either way and worked perfectly.
Yeah.
I think, the mission was complete when he killed. I keep forgetting his name. Ringo. That moment it could fulfill the same purpose.
I say they needed to show some version of it. Again, I think we're all just saying we're happy, but some of us wanted more. It works. It still works either way, but they needed that montage or a battle to show the Cowboys breaking up, and then to give Ike showing his cowardice one last time of taking off the red scarf, because that again payoff.
And
Wyatt said, and he takes it off. If you're done with the Cowboys, then I'm not going to kill you. So he takes it off and runs away, which is why he also didn't kill Behan because Behan wasn't wearing a scarf. But then that's good. And then you get those final moments. And of course, we didn't talk about Henry Hooker, the Chuck Heston stuff. That's just Chuck Heston being awesome. Chuck Heston.
Absolutely.
And the reunification of Josephine and Wyatt at the Hooker Ranch, which leads to our final scene. But I understand how it's might feel like an up and down in terms of pacing in the third act, from high octane testosterone ass kicking. We're now going to slow it down, have a couple of emotional moments. High octane again, and now epilogue slow down. I can understand how that might be jarring.
It was just like that. The final montage was just so short that it was just jar in. All right, I finally used to the jar, and then we're jarring right back.
Here's my take on that.
It either needed not to exist or be substantially longer.
Here's my final take on that part then. Considering this movie is just over 2 hours long. And this is back in the day when they tried to keep movies no longer than 2 hours. I think this might have been an editing choice at the end. They might have filmed more, and they decided because they were already bumping up against the limit of what they're going to be able to put in the theater. So this might have been an editing choice to just trim it down and get it done and get to the epilogue. Is that a fair assessment?
It could be, but it still doesn't necessarily fix my criticism. It just explains it.
Well, your criticism is valid because I can understand it. I completely understand it. All right, so then there's the conclusion. I really like the touching scene in the sanatorium.
That is a moment that I think all modern filmmakers need to study, because there's so much subtlety, and it doesn't have to be two grown men sobbing at his death. You just like Doc is like, I want you to leave right now. If you're my friend, go and live a good life, or something like that. That is just a heartbreaking moment with two incredible actors. The shots, like that close-up shot of Doc in the bed where he's like partially in shadow, is just beautiful. And just just the interaction. It feels like something special. There's very few movie endings that you come away feeling like that was a scene that will be remembered forever. And that's how I felt after watching that scene. It was just something that I didn't expect, but makes the film substantially better because it exists.
And I love how it's such a somber moment, but he still has that humor because he looks at his foot and says, "That's funny."
And here's why it's also a beautiful setup moment. It's all about, if you're my friend, you're gonna go now, you're gonna live life, and please don't watch me die. Even though Doc is somebody who only has really one friend, Wyatt Earp, he doesn't. Even though it's one friend, he wants to be alone in that last moment. And if you're my friend, leave me. Wyatt says nothing, smiles, gets up, leaves, and then lifting up the pamphlet, "My Friend Doc Holliday" by Wyatt Earp. That's just so a poignant little show don't tell moment to just lock it in. I was your friend. I'm gonna miss you. I love that. I love that moment. It just seals it. And then, like Devil said, in a great Doc fashion, "That's funny." and then it's even more heartbreaking when you realize, as they pan back out, the nurses don't even realize he's dead. It's just really poignant right there. He died and nobody realized. The only one that knows it is Wyatt, and he only knows it. He knows it was coming, but even though he's not there, it's that weird kind of idea. Wyatt knows he's dead, but he didn't actually see it. But he's the only other person that knows it at that moment. It hits you, and then we get happy ending. Wyatt and Josephine. Wyatt, my family's rich. Gonna be okay.
And it's more setup and payoff, like the whole we'll dance and then we'll get room service.
Yay! Room service. It feels good. Go ahead, Mustang.
The last words of Doc Holliday, according to the nurses, were the ones he said in the show. They actually said what historically accurate right there.
That makes it so much better. Like, one of the most accurate scenes is also one of the most powerful.
Yeah.
And again,
that was his last words.
And it's livery. The joy you feel from Wyatt and Josephine, and then the epilogue from Robert Mitchum. They were together for 47 years after that. That's a lifetime right there. It's great. So this movie nails it. And as always, the end here, the soundtrack, spot on. Dun, 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 dun. The everything hits it perfectly. It's not. You're not going to remember it unless you're watching the movie. It's that kind of soundtrack. I'm not going to remember it, but when you're watching the movie, you know it automatically. You're pulled into it, and it does elevate it that little bit because it's well scored.
It makes me want to hunt down some bad guys and bring hell with me. Yes. That soundtrack, I'm bringing hell.
Let's call down the thunder and form up a posse. I
love me some posse. Posse's great. Love me some posse.
I guess what you're saying.
Jeremy hates the posse. So.
Yes,
he does hate the posse.
He's more Jeremy likes
a lone rider.
Let's just say, to quote the phrase going around, Jeremy eats corn the long way.
He does.
Jeremy eats corn the long way. All right. With that said, anybody want to add anything else as we walk out of the saloon here?
Well, I wanted to point out how you said Billy Bob Thornton was in there for a very short period of time, and he was Fat Billy Bob Thornton. That man banged Angelina Jolie. Would you ever have thought that? Looking at his character, going,
he's
banged, gonna be in that.
He banged Halle Berry or
Halle Berry.
The
Halle
Little
Berry.
Mermaid
Halle
chick
Berry.
screwed up my pronunciation.
Halle Berry.
Halle Berry in a film. In Monster Ball, that is unsimulated sex.
Really?
So he banged her in her prime in a blockbuster movie. That's pretty ballsy.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yep, it's unsimulated. And it was her idea, apparently. The whole, I want you to make me feel good. They're actually fucking.
Okay.
Her idea.
I didn't know that.
Bastard.
I did not
That
know
man,
that.
Billy Bob Thornton, he's one of the weirdest actors to come out of Hollywood. Like, his life doesn't make sense.
Yeah. But
I know.
This definitely is one of my favorite Westerns, I have to say. Right up there with, like in your intro, McClintock. Love that one,
That's
too.
my favorite John Wayne movie. That's my favorite John Wayne movie. I love that movie. All right, guys, it's time. Since it was my week, I will go first. 9.0 out of 10. I love this movie. It never disappoints. The cast is stellar. The performances are stellar. The soundtrack is spot on in every scene. The choreography is great. The cinematography is great. The look is great. It looks right. It feels right. It looks like the West. Of course, people are a lot prettier. We talked about that. But this, we want to enjoy what we're looking at. We don't want sores and fat whores. We don't want that. I riffed that just now. That wasn't even planned.
That was beautiful.
Dermy's new stream.
Clip that one. Let's clip that one later, please. But my only critiques are technical critiques. You are mainly a couple. I agree. There are points in the story where I feel a couple scenes dragged on too long, or maybe some scene changes weren't that clean. But that stems from my general critique of I don't know time has passed. My general critique of a lot of stuff, and of course, I will always critique endless rounds and firearms. I will always critique that. It's not that hard to get right. I don't get that. That's it. So 9.0 for me. Jed, what are you scoring this today?
So, yeah, I do realize I have a couple more issues with the film than the rest of you, and that might just be a me thing, but I do believe it is legitimate criticism, so I'm going to be a little bit lower, but it's still pretty high for me. 8.5 is where I rate this film.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I can't believe it's taken me this long to see it because it fully lives up to the classic Western. I've seen a lot of Westerns come after the 60s when the Western really kind of had its sundowning, and most of them just could not compare, not even close. But this one deserves 100% to be listed among the best of the classic Westerns, and I wasn't expecting to say that. So I'm very happy you chose this film.
Good. Well, you would have been happy with my other choice because you know what my other choice was for this week. Would have been The Fugitive or this one, so you were going to be happy either way. Then
The Fugitive is great. I love The Fugitive.
Devil scored up.
I'd put it at a 9.5. I grade on a real weird thing because I give most of the points just on is it rewatchability, acting, so and that it has in spades. Yeah. And then but there is a little couple nitpicks, but they're so small and stuff. I can only dock it so a half a point. So I'd say 9.5 for me.
That's outstanding. Mustang, give it to us.
Taking out all the historical inaccuracies and that part of it for me, this is right up with Liberty Valance, and it's going with a 9.
Oh, nice. All right, so great. We had high scores all around. And get everyone. I need to upgrade it. When I watch this one this time around, God, this copy looks so bad right now. I have got to upgrade to a Blu-ray copy of this. And now we have one quick question. The guys asks a question of us right here. I do not want to ignore this. When it comes to such Westerns, for those non-American, how would you get others interested in watching films such as Tombstone, Wyatt Earp? You guys can answer first. Go ahead. Who wants to go first?
It's not an American thing. I have friends that are in Australia and England and Germany, around the country, around the world, that they love it. It's just you've got to try. You got to take something and say, "Here's a show," and watch it. I mean, and you could use Kurt Russell, such a well-known person. Somebody around the world has seen him and say, "It's got Kurt Russell." That's all you need to say.
I think that I would agree with that. For me to answer that, then it's who's the star. Throw out John Wayne, throw out Clint Eastwood, but for something like this, which has kind of a magical Hollywood fantastical feeling to it, Kurt Russell sells it, Val Kilmer sells it. So I would say I agree with Mustang. If you're going to try and get somebody interested in something, anything, line it up with somebody who has a good body of work behind them and performances. Again, this movie works because of performance.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I would sell it that it's America has a very unique kind of past to it, in that a lot of the countries, when handguns and stuff really kind of blew up and stuff, they were already settled, because we are such a new country. So when you sell it as the Wild West, this was a wild time. This was unruly. We had a government, obviously, but it wasn't made to handle everything. So you really had to take areas and stuff as they are. So you really have to think about these characters and that they were it was real unbridled and sell it as that.
Yep. All
It was
right.
wild time.
All right.
Well, the only thing I would add to that is, yes, Westerns are very much ingrained in American ideals and American sentiment, but that doesn't mean it's exclusively appealing to Americans, because a lot of the classic themes and character archetypes from Westerns, whether or not they be classic or ones like Tombstone, they're universal traits. I mean, the classic hero's journey that doesn't have an American origin and isn't exclusive to American films, but that exemplifies cowboy.
You brought up earlier, the Magnificent Seven is based off the Seven Samurai.
Exactly. It has universal points to it.
Yeah,
it's just a specific setting.
Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, guys, and anybody else wondering that. So once again, thank you guys for joining us. We sort of have a movie chosen for next week, Jed's pick, but we're working out a guest. So we'll get back to you in a couple of days on that, guys, if you're watching this in real time. Again, thanks to, as always, Jed for being here. Thanks, Devil. Thanks, Mustang, for showing up. And thank you all for putting up with us. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed your hunt. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the tongues of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff. I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
That's why you can't, little boy.
Great Scott. Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass! I thought I'd die fighting side by side with Al.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.